Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm doing great. Perfect. Let me check if the voice is okay on all of you guys. Actually, I'll fix that while you guys get a little chance to introduce yourself. I think, like, if you're watching, we can start in the top left.
All right, you just want like a little
background? Like who you are and what do you do in Theorycraft. I think that's like most exciting for the people that might not know you guys as well, and maybe just started playtesting. Maybe like if there's some funny things that you've been working on behind the scenes.
Yeah, so I'm Joshua Morrison, or JMO. I'm a designer at Theorycraft. I do a little bit of everything. I've worked on the map. I work on a lot of the hunters. I've worked on powers, minions. I'm probably one of my biggest contributions is probably Glider, and then everyone's favorite hunter, Brawl. Fan favorite. Love him and hate him. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of jump around, do a little bit of everything. For a long time, I was doing I did audio before he had a dedicated audio guy. I did VFX. They're not very good, but I can do it. Just kind of a jack of all trades. But yeah, that's about it for me, I'd say.
Oh, are you muted?
I'm muted, yeah.
Damn.
I was just saying JMO's the Chaos Lord. He builds all the things that make us all very nervous, but then end up panning out pretty well. Yeah, hi, my name is Justin Xenogenic. Been a designer for about 16 years. I've only been at Theorycraft for about a year, so I'm younger than two of these. Bchang's a little bit newer than me. Before that, I worked at Riot. I worked on Champions. I worked on the MMO. I worked on a bunch of other stuff. Did the reworks on Mordekaiser and Willump is probably some of my favorite stuff. On Supervive, I'm mostly working on heroes. I've done some stuff on minions, but I was responsible for Storm. I took Felix off of JMO's hands and kind of took over.
Jewel.
Jewel.
Sorry.
we don't make this mistake at all. Never. Really.
It will never. Yeah, we'll see how long this takes. But yeah, I did Jewel, Felix. We have some stuff in flight that we haven't announced yet. And yeah, mostly working on combat and heroes.
Awesome. Bidbood, you wanna go next?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm David Bidbood. Last name Bchang. Some of you may know I used to work on Apex Legends for a couple of years, doing a bunch of weapon stuff. So I'm joining Theorycraft not from the MOBA side, but from the action shooter side. Before that, I was on Destiny for a couple of years. So I've been at Theorycraft probably about, I don't know, like a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. Not too much longer than Justin, honestly. JMO is definitely the one that's been here the longest. As far as Theorycraft is concerned, I've been helming up Shiv for a while. At this point, I didn't create the character, but kind of like running the reins, just kind of making sure they're doing all right on Celeste, and a lot of stuff I focus on. Similar to JMO, I think all of us on a small team, we all do lots of little things and wear lots of hats and help where we can, but lots of minutia in terms of like aiming, shooting. I've done the like aim laser and the little glider balloon that you aim at on people, and a lot of support on just like fine-tuning the hit slows and the shooting slows, self-slows, and projectile speeds and all that kind of stuff has been a lot of my work recently. If JMO's the big chaos lord that comes up with amazing ideas, I put myself at the opposite of the spectrum, where I'm very Zen Garden designery and very I like to sit there and fiddle the little knobs and make sure they feel just perfect and are at just the right number because the spreadsheet says so, etc. So we pair up well, I think sometimes.
For sure.
Awesome, thank you. Lastly, but not least.
Yes, hello. I'm Brian Chang, also go by Bchang in game. I am very new to Theorycraft. I'm only 3-ish months in, and I am not a designer. I work in insights and data, so a lot of my time is spent looking at survey responses and feedback that you have, as well as probably a little bit spicier like game balance data, looking at which hunters are strong and weak, and we're all trying to make sense of that right now, but that's sort of kind of the world I play in. And yeah, really excited to learn more about the game with you all. I'm pretty new to the game myself. Obviously, I've only been playing for some handful of months. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome that everybody of you could make it. I really enjoy being able to talk to devs and also spread the information for people that might not know you guys as well, but also be able to talk about the games, because you guys are so open to be vocal and talk with the community, be able to get feedback. So it's really fun to be able to get you guys in stream here now in the first week where NDA has dropped and a lot of things have been going on. I'm sure you guys are like sitting on very different emotions depending on maybe how long you've been there, or depending on what you're working on. So like I'm hoping for like a pretty chill chat overall. If you guys have things you want to chime in with here and there, you feel free so. But also have like some questions here and there that can be leading for some sort. And I think like one of the questions I've gotten the most recently, you know, it is the hottest topic. We get like to start to get the iron in a little bit for JMO. We saw the patch notes. I was wondering like how are you feeling about the community's response on the Brawl changes so far?
I think it doesn't surprise me. I think I'm used to it at this point. I think I've talked to some people about it as well, but I think this playtest, a lot of projectile changes went in. Like we increased projectile speeds, we reduced slow penalties for like attacking, and the idea there was just like give a little bit more agency, like let the better players express more skill, and I think we like that a lot internally. The thing that I was looking at was like Brawl's numbers, you know, he's very close to being too strong, you know, so I didn't want to give him too much, but I think he maybe didn't benefit as much from the projectile changes, and so I wanted to give him just a little bit more, and he is very much at the ceiling, I would say, power level right now, and I think I've even been playing him a lot during these play tests, and I think like I have some things, like I think his mobility and his escape is at like a questionable amount, and that's something I would like to target. But I am excited to see him be able to scrap a bit more, and like I think the LMB damage, I'm like maybe it's a tiny bit too much, but I do like that his LMB is now, you know, actually a part of his kit more, and it feels good at, I think, for like lower level players. I do think maybe there's a shift here where like he's really, really good at high level and he's not so great at lower level, and so maybe some changes in the future will be directed at like making him still pickable at low skill, but maybe shaving off some of the extremes at the top end. But yeah, I think generally we look at data that's like Bchang's like superpower in this group, and I think like we'll always be, you know, balancing and tweaking here or there. I think sometimes some hunters they'll have their moment in the spotlight. I think Brawl is, you know, maybe it's byproduct that I'm working on him, that he's like up and down all over, but we do like to see the meta shift and stuff too. So
yeah.
But yeah.
One thing I'll add there is a lot of the folks coming in this week are new to the game. And as JMO just mentioned, for the vast majority of players, Brawl is in a pretty healthy spot, possibly even on the slightly weaker side. Part of the challenge for us to like make sure that hunters are viable across all skill bands is that he is, as JMO said, pushing the limits at our higher skill bands, and so you can expect that like as people get better at the game and as people get more adept at dealing with but also playing as Brawl, you're likely going to see that strength be accentuated more and more. So that's probably something we'll have to keep a close eye on. I think Brawl is like the worst offender of this, is like he scales the most with like skill bands where the delta between low and high MMR in his success is very high. But for all hunters, there's like some patterns that we see of like they get better or worse. I think like the opposite example of that is Shrike, where I think newer players often find Shrike to be quite strong, and then as skill bands go up, people learn how to deal with her more and more, and she becomes about equal to or slightly on the weaker side.
Yeah, interesting. So, because one of the reasons I wanted to start exactly with this Brawl theme is that he's a hot topic, and also by being in the theme of you guys being very community driven, I would also love to hear from you, other guys, but start with JMO. How do you balance the feedback you get from the community when it's like so hot with Brawl, by the same way wanting the changes that you think are the best that doesn't necessarily match with the community?
you say you wanted to start with me? Or
Yeah, I want to start, but I would also love to hear from the other characters, but since we're on the topic of Brawl.
I think like it is. We definitely listen to the community a lot. We do trust our own judgment, and we play. That's one of the reasons we love playing with you guys, and like we're in there too during these tests. I think it's a mixture, like perception can to some degree be reality, and so like there is a bit of like I just have to pick and choose, what do I want Brawl to be good at, and like where are his strengths and where do I want them to be, like that's part of why I say like is his mobility. I think at a high level, I bet a lot of his power comes from escape, and it's like, well, that's not his fantasy. So like, I then take the community's feedback. I think about what I want and kind of like try to hone in. But yeah, I don't know if I can think of an example where like I've like been like, oh no, the community's completely wrong, and we've like pushed back. I think we just accept and listen to you guys, right? Like where you guys are helping us make this game, so I don't think there's ever been a time where we've been like just no, we're going to push on regardless of what the community says. But yeah, I think it depends on the area, like if I think internally I have examples where it's like people might not love lava, when it first goes in, and I'm like, well, yeah, lava's bad, like you're not gonna love lava. It's a hazard, and I think we hear some of that with spiking sometimes, where people are like, man, spiking is a really sharp output, and should that change? And I'm just like, here's the 8 reasons why spiking is amazing and why we must keep it, So I think it's always a discussion, really, is how I think about it.
Yeah, it's like piggyback. It's absolutely so much like the feedback. What you're always trying to gain too is not just like our goal isn't to like make some quantitative. We can point at the numbers and say everyone has an equal win rate. Like that doesn't really benefit anyone, because the point is to make the game fun and make the game give characters that they can be excited about and chase the fantasy of, and really have a good time. And like the qualitative, like what was the experience and how did that make you feel, is like always the part we're digging into more, especially when we talk about bouncing. Is this character too strong? It's like, well, it's not just are they too strong, should we nerf them? It's like, okay, well, like to Jamo's point, like where is the power? Perhaps like so much of Brawl's power budget right now comes from his ease of engaging and escaping from fights very easily. Perhaps with that, maybe we could say, okay, at a high level, there's not enough counterplay. There's not enough abilities for teams to stop him from escaping when they catch him out. And we really want to think about it more like that. Like, okay, is it, and why is that bad? Because having something be strong is not a bad thing. I think something that we believe with theory, with Loki, and you can kind of see it and everything, is like the point of balance and the point of games in general is like you're not trying to just minimize the negative experiences that players have. What you really want to make sure is that people can have an experience that they love, that they really connect with, and makes them really hype. And like spiking is a great example. It feels bad to get spiked and die, but like the new players who like can suddenly, everything's all lost, they're 1v4 and they turn it around because a team glides into them and they spike them, like they're going to keep playing the game for a week because of that high moment. And it's not about minimizing downsides, it's about making sure people can have that fun and then trying to balance the like, okay, but how unfun is it on the other side? And so it's never just a like, how do we address power, but like getting the feedback really from the community, like, well, what is it that's bad or that is frustrating about Brawl? And like that stuff is really, really valuable, because we can look at like, okay, well, maybe we need to lower Brawl's ease of mobility power, and then we can give him more damage power as part of the budget. You know what I mean? It's a very case by case situation, because that's just the way design works.
Yeah, I think I was going to add any color to that really quick. I would say it's definitely always interesting / concerning to us when the community is upset about something. And I think like J-Mo had said and Bosek had said, there's essentially like 2 realities. The one is the objective math reality, where we're like, yeah, this is perfectly balanced, but there's also the player perception, the community perception. And in a lot of ways, the latter is actually more important. But it becomes like a nuance. Like, well, I'll back up. If something is objectively overpowered and the community is mad about it, that's an easy fix. Nerf it. But if it's like objectively underpowered or objectively balanced and the community is mad about it, then it's a little more nuanced. And I think like generally our approach is looking at sort of what is this concept of like net fun, right? Like if someone's capable of doing really cool, sharp things, they're having a really good time. And then how toxic or tilting is that for enemies? And if it's like mildly toxic or mildly tilting, i.e., like getting 2-shot by Shrike, I would argue is like mildly tilting. It's like really fun for her. It's really fun for new players, and so I would argue that that's like a net fun gain, and we would probably be careful about nerfing that, even if there was a brief uproar, because in the whole picture, we think that's better for the game. I think spiking is another good example. So it's something we would talk about, but I would say like forever going forward, if the community's upset about something, we're going to talk about it. If we don't act on it, I think so far we've done a pretty good job of explaining why and our reasoning, and I hope that we continue to do that so that we don't just like players don't feel like we're ghosting them, because we are definitely listening. It's been like a core part of our strategy since day one. So I think we'll do our best to explain like where we're at when there's a hot topic.
Yeah. Something that gets harder too, the bigger and bigger it gets. Sadako is like, we say the community, but like people are, especially a player community, is not a monolithic group that's in agreement. And maybe even if everyone can unify behind, I'm making this up as an example, not to pick on Jamie, oh, Brawl is too crazy. If you actually go talk to each person, why is Brawl crazy? You'll realize 5 different people have 5 different things they would say you should nerf, or 5 different things they say is the problem. So like, it's also really important to remember, like, it's easy on the surface to think, oh yeah, like the community at whole just believes this one simple thing, but like everyone's experiences are so unique, and that's why just having these open lines of communication is so valuable. Because just getting a report from someone saying, hey, the community's mad at this, doesn't do us near as much good as like going and talking and being like, hey, what's the issue with this right now, to individuals, you know?
Yeah, awesome. On the topic that I wanted to check, because with NDA dropping and a lot of more community stuff being available, we've seen the rise of a wiki site that has been popping up with a bunch of different information. And I want to include you, Bchang, on that, where a lot of people have loved and seen the statistics about win percentages and pick percentages, and be some debate back and forth. You can go into depth where you can go in depth, but I want to ask, how you feel the impact of people having that information compared to what you guys are sitting on, and how it kind of works on the community's knowledge about the characters.
Yeah. Well, I think for starters, how I feel about it is great. Like the fact that people are interested in like discussing and using numbers to influence their decisions obviously gets me pretty excited. I think, internally, we obviously also look at such numbers. The thing we're careful about here is the game is still very, very fresh in a lot of players' hands. And like for all of us here in this call, I want us to think of like the first time we played like Supervive back when it was called Project Loki, and think about how different your perception of what was strong or weak was then versus 3 months from then, or 6 months from then, or a year from then. And so my guess is that, hopefully if the folks that got a chance to play this week are still playing 3 to 6 months from now, what they think is strong or weak, even if we made no changes at all, is probably going to be pretty different. And so a lot of the times, I think the important part at this moment in time, the way that I think about, pick rate data or win rate data is, as I think Justin mentioned, we don't want anything to be way over the line. Like obviously if the community is very upset about it, and also we think it's way too strong or it's just too prevalent, that becomes an issue. I think there are often times, or not often, but sometimes when you have what I'll call like invisible power, where certain characters or kits may not feel strong because, like getting executed by a brawl feels strong, but like there are other things in the game that are sort of hidden to the player or more invisible when it happens. Like I think one of the more strong characters in the game right now is Illuna. She has, like last patch, she was quite strong. She's not as strong with some of the changes we made this time around, but she's still definitely on the stronger side. But a lot of times the power that Illuna brings to a team is not offensive, where she is killing you, but more supportive. And so as the enemy, as the person go against the Illuna, you're less likely to feel this like visceral reaction of like, oh my god, that was so BS that Illuna was able to do XYZ. I mean, you can still feel that way, but I think that's much less likely to happen than like a character that kills you. And so I think, my current stance is like we should be cautious, but like, proactive about using data like win rates and pick rates. And I am very confident that if we were to talk 6 months from now, things are going to be very different, even if we change nothing.
Fair.
Yeah, I think one more, just real quick, one more piece of data that I think is really interesting, and it's been somewhat challenging for us is, we've been running monthly tests, but players have to play in like really short condensed bursts, and then have to make a lot of assumptions on that small window, and we have a limited, play test pool where not everybody can play, like you have to have a key and stuff like that. And then, these really good teams that have figured it out, have been playing for years, are like stomping a lot. So I find it really interesting how the heroes they main will like rise in win rate because they're just popping off. And so it's like what we see today, the color I want to add is what we see today is going to be a lot different, obviously, than when the game is open 24 hours a day. Anybody can play. We have, with any luck, bajillions of players like giving us tons of data. So it's like, to some extent, we have to do the best with what we have right now.
That's true. Sometimes we've actually said, like, is this character strong, or did Lemur switch mains? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes genuinely in this small of a group, it's like that sometimes. Like, y'all at the top can skew the numbers pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah, I think I remember there was like I was talking about this with Justin like a couple of playtests ago. There's a character that's not in the game at the moment named Gunner, and his like arena win rates were crazy, and like his arena KDA was like crazy. I was like, what is going on? And then we look and it's like 3 people that are like smurfing on Gunner and just destroying lobbies with him. So like I think that's happened a lot less with so many more people having access to the game and our game being more publicly known. So like sample sizes are larger now, but that's been an issue that we've run into in the past for sure.
But that's very interesting, actually, because then I want to know, do you see big differences compared to, as you say, when the better players are switching character? Does that impact how you guys look at the characters, even though it might not be technically strong, but rather the strong players are playing it? So say in a patch where you see a character is getting higher numbers, and then a lot of people are testing it, and even though it might not technically, like, say, for example, be strong, because of a lot of strong players play it, then it might be looking strong. Do you guys have like interesting like switches being able to take that data out, or how do you work with those kind of numbers in like a small playtest environment?
Yeah, I'll give the quick answer. The short answer is like, yes, we do have ways to sort of isolate that data out so that we're not getting heavily biased data because, the top players are playing a specific thing. So when we look at data, we cut it by different skill bands. We try to remove outliers. But also, on the other hand, I think it's really important that we do pay attention to what the most skilled players are picking up and playing for 2 reasons. One is it signals to us, like, the top players obviously think a lot about our game, and they think about what's strong and what will carry them. And so they will obviously gravitate towards picks that they perceive are strong, which is very useful information to us. And then the second thing is, looking at like numbers aside, if you just observe a high level player play the character, I think it really highlights like just how far, like how much they can push the limits of that character. Like I think we see that a lot this week where, like Lemur was using an example, like when you see Lemur playing Celeste, you get to see a lot of things being done with Celeste that an average Celeste player or someone picking up the game for the first time would not even know that it was possible. And so I think it gives us a lot of information on that side as well with like, if you push this character to its limits, just how much can they accomplish?
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to touch on more of the creative side of the community, but more so on the newer side. I want to like take a round of check. I want to start with you, Zeno. I don't know like how much you guys have been looking at social media compared to like working and being stressed about what is happening this week. But I want to check like if there is anything specific that you've maybe seen from new people coming in and discovering things that you might not have been seeing yourself in previous playtest or in your internal test, that damn, these guys are like catching up on stuff. This looks really fun, and like really enjoying what the newer people are bringing in.
Yeah, I've been, admittedly, I didn't get as much work done this week as I would have liked because I was reading tweets and watching streams and stuff like that. But it's been a really exciting week, and we appreciate everybody sharing stuff. I think for me, probably the most standout thing that I'm excited about is just seeing people's final fights and how insanely creative they are. There was one that went around, I think, just a day or two ago where they had like 50 fortress walls on a small space. And what's cool about that is like we play 2 games a day as a whole team every day. I literally every day. So we have like way more games under our belts than most players. And I've never seen an ending like that. We have never once in an Eternal game had an ending where the final circle has 50 fortress walls and nukes. And I'm like, man, that to me, that's like the magic, is that you can be that creative, that no two endings feel the same. And that's what gets me really hyped up.
Anybody else has a great memory of a thing they saw recently? It's only been a couple of days, of course. So how much can people actually find out, you know?
I mean, mine might be on theme, but I think I saw one, I don't know if he was semi-pro or ex-pro league player playing Brawl, and playing against him I was just like, oh no, like this is so terrifying. He's so fast. He's not missing. He's not afraid of the abyss. Like, he was like an abyss god. And I was just like, I think it's fair to say, like, Brawl probably has, been a bit strong, but I don't know that we've ever had someone who could play him that well, and I'm totally prepared for, like, I think you'll see this in lots of live games that, like, once pros start getting their hands on stuff, the nerfs just start rolling in, and people will be like, wow, that character doesn't look anything like when they released. And it's like, yeah, because in the right hands, it's terrifying, And I've seen some insane clips, even on Twitter and stuff, of different hunters being played or powers being used. I think internally, powers is always like a thing where it's like half the team uses them. But when I watch clips on Twitter, I'm just like they're used off cooldown at the right moments in conjunction with the hunter kits, and I'm just like, it's so exciting. It's so exciting too to see stuff I've never seen before. Like, I don't know if I have a good example, but I've even had some matches where I'm like, that works like that, or that interacts with that, and that's kind of the beauty of the sandbox nature of the game. But I'm like, it's actually really good for stuff like Twitter and TikTok, I think, where we're going to see one-off Loki or one-off Supervive moments that, I might not experience in 1,000 games or whatever, but it keeps me going back for more in a way, and I'm really excited by that.
Yeah, the clips and everything are so exciting. People do insane stuff. It's really interesting to me too, because like, we've had a lot of really experienced players playing for a long time, so like the stuff that's like they find weird ways to exploit. Like, I was surprised to see some of y'all doing the, like, oh, if we throw 2 tree prisons at the exact same time, we can get like the, that kind of stuff is always like, oh no, figuring out cool combos. But a lot of the times, to me, it's new players who like don't understand the concept of not gliding everywhere all the time and getting spiked nonstop. You'll watch them do that. You'll be like, stop gliding. And then, you know what I mean? They'll like immediately figure out the like Huntress. They'll run into a wall and get their whole team through a wall, and they'll like immediately notice and forget. It's amazing sometimes what people will figure out so quickly. Everyone learns individual elements and struggles with different elements, and it's so interesting to just watch a whole bunch of new players, really skilled gamers from the shooter side who have never played a MOBA, League of Legends pros who have never played it's so interesting to see everyone approach it from all these different angles, because everyone finds stuff that none of us, we're just such a small sample size internally compared to the mass of players banging on the game. It's just, that's one of the coolest things, is seeing how many different, everyone has a unique play style, and Supervive does an awesome job of like letting you do wacky stuff with that, I guess.
For me, I have a slightly different take, which is a lot of people have been kind enough to share their like getting run over by train clips this week, and that always happens to me because I never pay attention, especially when it's bullet trains, and so I feel a little better every time. It's like not just me, like all these, and obviously these players are newer, so they have that excuse, and I don't know what excuse I have, but that gave me a little bit of it felt like I was able to empathize with the getting run over by train clips, which there were a lot of.
Oh yeah, that is a lot of fun. One of the questions that I wanted to ask. I don't know like who's in charge of what, like specifically with the smaller stuff. But got a lot of questions about the storm shifts, and at the moment there are like a certain amount of storm shifts, and when people have more and more time to play the game, you'll see like kind of the same loops of how that works. We also had some before that have been removed, but also saw a community post about ideas for different storm shifters. Have you guys started cooking with some new potential like storm shifts idea after you've seen like the community starting that thread, or how is it in form of looking for the longevity of many different types of matches? The depending on who maybe knows the answer. If nobody can answer it, that's also totally fine.
Yes, is the short answer. I think storm shifts are exciting. I think we all know that they have good potential. Something we're definitely thinking about right now from the other side too is how overwhelming the game is at first, and so there's a lot of what we want to do, and always as well, seeing all the ideas from players is so exciting, but also we have so many things internally that we've tried and never even put out because they just didn't work, or maybe we say we'll save that till later. The list of storm shifts that are in the game right now is much smaller than the list of really cool ideas we've seen from players and written down, or things we've tried or whatever. And I think that's a really excellent space that I don't know. I can't promise things or anything, but I would be, in the way that you can probably expect new powers and new items and new characters, probably new storm shifts, new whatever. It's just such a good space to explore, especially once players get more familiar with the game. And maybe that's something that means we keep it simpler now. I don't know, but
Yeah, I know we are thinking about more, and they are somewhat a challenging design space in some ways because we don't want them to completely warp a match, but we want them to warp the match a little, and so finding that sweet spot is pretty tricky and requires a lot of internal testing even. But yeah, I know we're working on more of them. I think to your question, something I've been thinking about while I'm playing is I've had a few matches that my jaw hits the desk, I'm this match was insane. The powers I got, the experiences I had, and it is a lot of stuff multiplying on top of each other. And so I've been thinking what else is there? Maybe it isn't a storm shift, maybe it's some other additive layer on top of what we have, but I do think those things multiplying together give the game longevity in a way that's really exciting, and it's part of what makes the BR special. So I think all of us are probably always thinking of what's the next thing that we could add, because it doesn't have to be limited to powers or storm shifts or whatever. But yeah, it is really, and it's an exciting space. I think it's an evergreen challenge.
Also, another thing I wanted to touch on is for the people coming in this week. They have as you saw in the patch notes, a specific not I want to not call it nerfed mode, but an introductionary mode where some things are limited. There wasn't too much specific on how long that kind of was, but I was wondering in general, how do you go from that section, being in the new lobbies with nerfs to certain thing and less power shifts and etc., to going over to call it the regular mode, being able to have the full experience, and how it's been received by the public so far?
Yeah, I think so. To the first part of your question, this is a fairly new thing. So when you first play Supervive, there is a specific storm shift called Welcome to Supervive, and it, as Tom just mentioned, it removes a lot of the more complex and/or involved systems in the game. So, for example, when you drop, you immediately drop with 2 recommended equipped items, so you don't have to go for go and try and pick up an item to start. Vaults become significantly easier, and so there's a number of different changes. I think for us, this is a fairly new thing. We only started testing it a couple of weeks, maybe a month ago, and it's tested pretty positively in that when we've run labs with it, we've seen players. Basically, the way this started is we first put new players in just the regular BR mode, and we saw 20 different things where they were confused or got stuck or didn't understand how to use things, and so we sort of created that hit list of all the different things that we could change, and that's what created this new player storm shift. To the second part of your question of how do you transition from there to the fully experienced BR mode? The short answer is we don't know yet. That's something that we're going to have to fine tune and learn as we go on. Right now, we have new players will generally see that new mode, new storm shift only a couple of times before we throw you into the deep end. There's probably some more elegant way of doing that, but the only way we're going to know that is if we try it. And so this week will give us, and this is, I think, true for a lot of things. This week is going to give us a lot of data to look through and figure out how to best tune it moving forward.
Awesome. So I think it's been a lot of fun. In general, one of the things I want to go through with all of you guys is also a little bit personal. You know, we talk about the dev side with making changes, new stuff, but also we're gamers. So I got a great request of hearing from all of you guys. I'm going to start with Xeno. What is like your hot topic in a game, like your hot take on a game, Xeno? And I want to take around.
In general, or with
In
Supervive?
general, because this, you know, I want to see like what kind of person are we working with. We hear about the changes that you guys want to be making, but also like behind what the as it Bidbood on the corner is dying already.
Here talking for it. This is the least easy time to be like, I am not stating this as an official capacity for Theorycraft games. Like we're literally. Oh no.
I mean, this is the essence of our icebreaker. This is very.
Oh,
what do you mean? We do this to new employees without a warning.
I need to be able to know like what kind of devs am I talking to here. You know, we talk about the changes, but when I see you guys, you know, in a week, in a month, and I give specific feedback, what hot take am I thinking on the back of my head? Like maybe I should take this to another dev because I know they think about this in a certain way.
All right. I have one. It's topical. I'm very disappointed in people that are negatively reviewing the Elden Ring DLC because it's too challenging. I think my hot take is, you know, as a designer, but as a player who had like platinum to the base game, I'm like, it is challenging, but having, you know, going through New Game 3, New Game 4, it's like it just becomes tremendously easy. I think you like outscale it. And so for me personally, it was just extraordinarily refreshing to walk in and fight the Blackjail Knight and just get completely wrecked. Like he just kicked my ass. And instead of being frustrated, I was like, thank God, like we're back. I'm going to have to like get good at the game. I'm going to have to progress my character. And so for me, the DLC is like exactly what I wanted. And of course there are like nitpicky complaints, but I'm just like, it is exactly what I wanted. I think it is appropriately challenging. I don't think it's too hard whatsoever. There's some level of a player of me that's like, get good, maybe, if it's too hard, or, you know, step back and think about it a little more objectively. So
may I then ask that, were you on the side of then making, you know, the beginner mode that now people are trying in Supervive? To be able to, you know, introduction to the game and, you know, the difficulty of the games, like maybe people should, you know, burn a little bit and see how hot it is and get into it? I don't think that's the right answer. I mean, like, being more frank, if I worked at FromSoft, I would try to onboard people better. Like, they don't really onboard you. They just say, welcome to the world, and they punch you right in the face, which is their style, and it's like an artistic choice, and I respect it. However, I think that the whole, like, I actually fell in love with Dark Souls games, like, fairly recently. PS5 generation. I played Demon Souls, first one I got into because it was, like, just good graphics, and I was like, holy shit, I've been missing out. This is amazing. But it took me that long. And I think there's a lot of people that would also love it if they were eased into it a little better. And so with our newbie mode, if you want to call it that, the new player storm shift, I'm sure you've felt this. Everybody's felt this when we try to bring our friends and family into play. Supervive is a complicated game, for one. And two, I think you come in with some expectation. You see, you're like, oh, this is going to play like League of Legends, or this is going to play like Battle Rider. This is going to play like something. But the truth is, it isn't exactly like any of those. And so those mismanaged expectations can actually be really frustrating. I'll give you a personal one. Like when I first played Supervive, aka Project Loki, I died so fast compared to League of Legends that I was like, what the hell is this? This time to kill is so short. I have no time to do anything. And in fact, there's like a lot of time to do things. It's more, but I had to like paradigm shift my thinking to, oh, it's more like an isometric shooter than a MOBA, right? So for me, I think it is tremendously important that we give people time to play and recognize the differences and like the unique mixture, because we know that when players have pierced through all of that stuff, there's a great game waiting for them, but that wall is tall. So I'm like hugely in favor, and I would be in Elden Ring as well, of like helping you scale that wall to see how amazing and vast the game is past it. And so I think it's like actually a really good idea to do it and we could do that, by the way, without diminishing the depth and the longevity, which I think is the key. Like, you don't want to make the game shallower. You just want to help people understand how to swim in the deep end, so to speak. And I think it's a really good idea, and I would do it on Elden Ring as well, frankly. Also, who wants to go next on the hot takes there? I'll shoot.
David.
Yeah.
Do it, David.
Do it.
Get it over with. Just
All right, well, this my problem is this is more pop culture, and this is not going to tell you anything about how I do on Supervive, but I think I like The Last of Us video games. Okay, people tout them as like the biggest contribution of games story, like games as narrative, and I think that's patently false. I think the games are good, but I think The Last of Us TV show told the same story in less time with more detail, better for like an eighth of the budget, and teams didn't crunch their marriages to death. And I don't know. I think the game is cool. I think you get a lot from being in the tone. You know what I mean? I think like having the tone of fear and terror of the zombies is really cool, but the part about like Joel and Ellie's relationship that everyone loves, when you go back and watch it, is told like through cutscenes or while you're pushing barrels, like just walking. And that's all right, but like it's a good story because we crammed a TV show into a video game engine, and we know how to tell TV stories. It's beautifully written, it's incredibly well executed. The voice, I mean, it's really, really well done. But that's a really expensive and human costly way to do that. And I thought the TV show was like the same story, but with deeper characters and better. There's my like real spicy take on the game. Like I said, it doesn't have anything to do with Supervive, but that's what I have.
Nah, it doesn't need to have anything to do with Supervive, but it says a lot about the content of the character,
I think what I would say is, from the perspective of like the medium of games, the part that I really find interesting and fascinating and care a lot about is the like game of it, the interactive nature of the human to human. And so like the stuff I work on here is very much like I love dialing into that moment to moment, second to second, who can move their piece of plastic faster, and like why is that interesting? To have two human beings fight over this. Like, what is the fundamental concept of game, and why is it cool and interesting from a hoity-toity level? But there you go. So The Last of Us, I'm like mad, because I'm like, the game is fine. The story's great, but it's a TV show. The game is just fine. The gameplay's fine. There you go.
Thank you. I love the emotions. Jay, what you want to shoot for?
Yeah, I'll go. I have 3. I'm just gonna run through them because I'm a spicy guy. Okay. So my first one is I wanted to be like I think Supervive. I like it more than League, Dota, Overwatch, and Apex. So like I think it's like
that's not spicy.
Yeah, maybe that one's not spicy, but
not spicy.
I'm like I just wanted to rip on League a little. And then my next one is Power World is more innovative than Pokemon has been in a decade. That one might not be spicy either, but I love Pokemon. And I'm just like so upset with Nintendo. So I love Power World, and I'm just like, I don't know. And then my spiciest one I say for last, which is I hate Horizon Zero Dawn. I think it's not a very good game. I'm like hardcore Breath of the Wild fan. When you ask this question and they're like, what does it mean? Like as a designer, David's like, what does it say about me as a designer? There are people who tell me, like designers who are like, oh, my favorite game that year was Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm like, don't with me, okay? Breath of the Wild came out the same year, and you're gonna tell me that's your game of the year? Like, I'm judging you so hard if you tell me that. Just like I don't know, you have to dig your way out of that, Like I can't handle it. So
2017 game of the year was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. There's my spice recall.
See, that's got character though, like. Horizon Zero Dawn just feels like I don't know. Like, it's a knockoff of Ubisoft games, which aren't even that good anymore anyway. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's real pretty, though. The art's real cool.
The art's cool. The artist gets mad props. The guy who, it's like his style. He's amazing.
Okay, Bchang, can you top this? How hot is it gonna be in there now?
I don't think so. I'm gonna share the same one I shared with the team, which I didn't think was that. Yeah, I didn't think it was that hot, but then I got like a lot of reactions out of it. I think in every single competitive game, the player base overrates mechanics heavily over strategy. So, like, put another way, in any game that's like any popular competitor game out there, and this includes League, Valorant, Dota, Supervive, over any like team-based competitive game really, you can climb fairly high. I'd say like top 20th percentile. Just thinking better about the game. Like even if you didn't improve your mechanics whatsoever, you could probably get there. And the reason why I think about that often is, like when I play games with friends, and I felt this way too, is like, oh, I'm hard stuck because of mechanics, or like, oh, I just need to aim better, or shoot heads better, or have faster reaction times. And I think that's like all just not true. Like you could have none of that and just have made a better decision 3 minutes ago, and probably, or like picked the more suitable character, or built the right item, and you probably would have won. And so like every time someone tells me that they're stuck because their hands are not good enough, I'm like, that's probably not true unless you are like the best of the best.
I think people are gonna think that's pretty hot. That's interesting. I like it. Awesome. Thanks for the hot takes. Want to take up too much of your time, but I have some personal questions. People have been reaching about like more specific things into Supervive. The first one, always a banger, from Loki the Shady Spirit. Ask JMO, why are you so handsome, JMO?
Just an always been kind of thing, I don't know.
Bang.
It's not like one day it just happened. It's just like always been like that.
I mean, it's taken some time, I'm getting better with age, so I don't know. The gray hair's coming in.
Awesome. Okay, this was more like open-ended question, but more so on question about teamwork in form of getting information from Supervive. Somebody had a question about how is or like what is Theorycraft's stance on sharing of API and information for making potentially like third-party applications to be able to support in the game. If you can talk about that.
I was going to say Ping Pwiff. I feel
Ping
like
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, Pwipping.
We just make hunters go brr. We don't.
Yeah. I don't dare. I really don't know.
Okay, but I can jump over to more of the hunter side of things. So this one also to JMO. This was specifically ask JMO about myth bugs. How's it going over there?
I'm sure there's a few. I can't read, so when they send me all these bug tickets, it's just like sometimes they have to attach pictures for me, I do think someday we will get tooling, and I think a lot of those bugs will go away for falling through the ground. But I appreciate y'all's going through the dark ages with me as we work through the kinks. But yeah. Is Myth my buggiest? I think Void might have more bugs. It's just he's been around long enough to get through most of them. But yeah, I think JMO heroes will always, they're at the forefront of something, and so therefore they are just a bug magnet. And yeah, I appreciate you guys going through the growing pains of alpha, pre-alpha, and I'm sure it'll probably always be a little bit like that as new hunters come online.
We're going to be making new stuff, and the new stuff will definitely have bugs.
No, this game doesn't have bugs. What?
I would add though, just for like some behind the scenes context, like our team is not particularly large, and time is very limited, and we're working on a lot of new features, and so it is a very real thing where you'll sometimes see bugs and be like, I would love to fix that. However, I can't fix that because it means I can't do this thing, which is like way more important. And we have to do a lot of that. I think like a good example is Storm's stacks, Jewel stacks. Sorry, Jewel. Jewel stacks don't show up often, and like we're very aware of it, but that has been lower priority than like bugs that may make you completely unable to play her, for example, or her dash isn't working or whatever. So this is one of the hardest parts of dev is prioritizing and realizing you have this big list and everything at the bottom is just not happening for the next playtest. It breaks our hearts every time. It's really tough.
Spooky said turning into Helldivers with bugs, and that's the perfect analogy for how it feels trying to ship a game. Like that's so exactly what it is.
Also,
it's
okay.
The swarm.
From bugs to remakes and the changes in hunters in general, want to hear from you, Xeno. Like, how do you guys, or like for you specifically first, like how do you approach changes in a hunter? So say for example in Jules' take, there were a lot of different changes, approaches on how the abilities was gonna work. How do you approach changing something in a hunter and try to make a decision in form of, yeah, this is the right thing, and the balance of bringing community into the changes?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is something, like I said, I've done on League. I did 3 reworks. I did Xinjiao, then I did Nunu and Willup, and I did Mordekaiser. And on the third one in particular, I had the opportunity to make a new champion on League or do a rework. And I was excited to do a rework because I kind of like bringing something that should be beloved, which was Mordekaiser, into the modern era. And so with these Jewel updates, to piggyback off of that, she was my first hunter project on Project Loki, obviously. And for the time, she was like borderline overpowered. She had like really high mobility, like really high burst, and she was kind of crazy. But then as time went on and we improved movement and we made it feel better and it was a little more responsive and projectiles a little more responsive, she actually like started to fall behind and wasn't living up to this feeling that we wanted to elicit of like, I am lightning, I become lightning, I dash around like lightning. She had kind of fallen behind. And so that's the lens I looked at it through. Like, how do I modernize her but keep that core spirit intact to make her once again this like flashy lightning assassin? And then those changes came to be. Plus the other thing was we had given other hunters more and more utility. They had more tools, and she was kind of one note: build 4 stacks, dash through them. Build 4 stacks, dash through them. Like, it wasn't that interesting. So that is specifically why we were exploring, like, can I push people into walls and stun them? Can I give vector casting, we call it, where I can target where my E pushes you on her E. We added the wisp interaction, so she has more utility. She can pull wisps to her. She can knock enemy wisps into the abyss and stuff like that. And that's, again, to like modernize her, let her play in the combat sandbox a little bit more, not just be this 4-stack dash, 4-stack dash, very repetitive experience, I guess.
Awesome, thank you. Also, specifically more on the hunter side, Bchang, got a question. You are more, on the data side, but now it's like your spotlight. If you're making the next hunter in Supervive, what are you making? Like, if it's more so on the ability side or, on the art style, like something specifically, what are you making if you are making the next hunter?
Wow, really putting me on the spot here. I think about this one pretty often. The flavor of the week right now is I've always wanted to see what like a caster mage could look like in the game, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I think about, I play a good amount of both League and Dota, and then there's like champions and heroes there like a Lux or a Ziggs or a Xerath in League, or in the Dota side like a Lion or a Crystal Maiden, or even like a Zeus. I think there's like a lot of characters that have this like mage fantasy. I want to also, I should have prefaced with this, but I'm going to end with this. This is me as like a player playing the game saying this. You should not interpret this as like, hey, this is what we're making next, because I am not a hunter designer, so my desires for what we make and don't make are not what gets made and not made.
Oh, but it's good. We want to hear all the opinions, So when you come to the next meeting, I'm like expecting like a presentation about this mage. You gotta pitch it right. Gotta get all the ideas in.
I'll find some data to just prove my point. Just like, obviously the numbers say we need to make this.
Yeah, also. So, more on the hunter side. This theme, is probably one of the questions I got asked to ask JMO specifically. There were some leaks, that happened in a meme channel by JMO. So the people wants to know, what is the status on Bebo?
First of all, it wasn't me that leaked, it was Justin. But
hey man, that's
it's fine. So now I can just answer, right?
Yeah.
Cliff, right?
Right.
I mean, Bebo will return. I don't know when he will return. He is I don't know, he's the craziest character I'll probably work on. He kind of does what he wants, like, I'm not sure when he's ready, then he'll be ready, I don't even control Bebo, I'm just like, at the keyboard, but he tells me what he wants, kind of thing. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see.
What an artist!
When he's ready, he'll come out. It's the actual correct answer. People will come out when Bebo's ready. Yeah.
We turned him off for a while internally while we're getting this build ready and stuff like that. And when we eventually turned him back on for testing, I made some tweaks. And I remember writing, like, sometimes I'll write notes and I'll be working on other stuff for 2 weeks or whatever, and I'll come back to him and we'll turn him on and I'll play him, and it feels fresh, right? Like I haven't been soaking on it for a bit. And I play it and I'm like, who came up with this, right? Like what is this nonsense? And I think I told Justin, like, we have this thing where it's like almost no ability lasts 4 seconds in the game. 4 seconds is like an absurd amount of time in Supervive, and people will come to you for any ability. I think some old veterans might remember Firefox used to put circles on the ground that were fire, and I think they lasted 4 seconds, or maybe it's his oil barrel, they lasted 4 seconds. But people constantly come to me just like, there's no way this number is right, there's no way this is okay, it needs to be shorter duration. And I went to work on Bebo recently, and his ult lasted 7 seconds, and I was just like, there's no way this number is right, it's almost double what's okay. And yeah, he just, he kind of does what he wants. We test him and we'll see what he ends up being. He is the most insane thing I've ever worked on, that's for sure. But I'm excited to get player feedback, so I'm sure he'll be back sooner rather than later. So
as you're keeping the theme of every JMO character, being broken when they come out,
I've gotten better at it, so just imagine how it was 2 years ago, So I'm honing towards remotely balanced, So, but yeah, I think Bebo might take the crown of JMO characters for just most insane. I was saying earlier in chat that like each of my characters I realize pulls on like a little piece of me. This one scares me, I guess, what he says about me.
Awesome, thank you, man. That's great. Okay, also the next thing I have is on the topic of things that have been teased and something we're starting to see a little bit more about, the skins. So one of the questions I got was, Bidbood, what is your favorite hunter skin? And do you guys like have a lot of unlockable skins that you guys play in the Eternal Test, or are you also being limited by the people working on the skins?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. We don't have.
You don't have any?
I had a time where Venomous once messaged me with a picture of a Shiv skin and was like, "How come you didn't tell me anything about it?" And that was the first I'd seen of it. Like, I mean, the thing is, like, there's so many people. Everyone's doing so much stuff, but we're all so, focused on our stuff. I wish I knew. Although I gotta say, we've been seeing some concepts, and the Shiv skin is probably my favorite. I don't know. I'm biased, but it's really good. It's right up my alley for art style wise. I can't say too much more, but it's really exciting. I also really love Myth. And the Myth skin is also really cool. But I think the Shiv skin's gonna be a real banger. That's all I'm gonna say.
We playtest the skins from time to time to get feedback. I think for more concrete details and or possible leaks, your best bet is to talk to Bellissimo, who I think you're talking to tomorrow, so that's probably a great person to harvest information out of if he is willing.
Awesome. Oh, that's cool. I think a lot of people like excited because we're able to get a little tease, on the Kingpin skins through the feedback form, and a lot of people are looking forward to that. So yeah, hoping you guys ship a few more skins in the next coming playtest. But also, we're getting to the close end of this. Don't want to keep you guys too long. Soon ready for the next session. NA session going to be starting in 30 minutes. So I would love to just hear some closing thoughts from all of you. Can I start with Xeno more so on what have you loved about the community so far that you've seen? But also, lastly, from all of you, so it's a two-parter. Number one, like closing thoughts on what you should think about, enjoy for Supervive as the coming days are coming, and it's going to come to an end. But also, what is one meme from earlier in playtest that people that they might not know about that you would like the community to know about?
I think the best way to answer that is probably to talk about, like I said, I left Riot about a year ago, and that was really hard, actually. I really liked it there. I know some people leave and they have bad terms or whatever, but I loved working there and I loved that team. But the thing that was really attractive, probably more than anything else about joining Theorycraft, was the fact that even like going back years, they've had people playing the game every month and like giving feedback. In fact, if you watch Weedle's montage, I think it starts at like a 2021 clip, and you can see how the game actually looked like a prototype, and the fact that this team was bold enough to let people basically play their prototype to get feedback, I was like, yes, I want to do that, because working with a community to build a game is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. And I want to be a part of that. And so I have been thrilled with the amount of feedback that we get and conversations, and our community is so chill, I guess. Like, it's not hyperbolic, it's not super toxic, it's not super negative. Everybody that I've interacted with, like, will give feedback, but through the goal of, like, they want to make Felix better, they want to make Jewel better. I think my most favorite thing that's happened this week is my favorite Shaco player in the world, Pink Ward, picked up the game. He's like a pretty famous Shaco player in League of Legends. He's been playing Jewel nonstop, and he's just sending me message after message after message with, like, is this a bug? And why didn't this work? And I think this should work like this. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm almost fanboying out because I love that guy. He's so good at Shaco, and to see him playing my work and giving me this feedback, he actually identified a legitimate bug that I'm going to go fix on Monday. I was like, you're crazy. Like, that slipped under our radar. The bug is, we did some fixes to her dash to make her not move down, but I think she can actually go over targets now, like altitude wise, and not hit them even though they're right under her. We need to make sure that hitbox is, Bosex's like, yeah, that tracks. But we didn't catch that. He did. So I was like, dang, dude. He's like, so I really love that. Man, I don't know if I really have a favorite meme. I've been watching some of them on Discord. I think Stevenator shared one that was like something about being in a competition, but you're playing against overpowered Xeno champions or something like that I got a good laugh out of. But I kind of like the memes that take a jab at us the best, I would say. But I can't think of any specific examples that stand out. All memes good.
Love memes. Also, Bchang.
I'll start with memes. There's recency bias here, but someone made like a SpongeBob Zeph and Patrick Kingpin recently.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love it. It just works so well. So thank you to whoever made those. I got a really good laugh out of them. And then I guess in terms of closing thoughts, thank you. I guess I'm fairly new to all this as well, so I'm sort of on the ride with you all. I guess the shameless plug I will give here is, please do not stop giving us feedback, whether it's through the Discord forums or the survey, or pinging Pliff. Like, any of those are viable options. Please continue to do those.
So you're saying we should ping Pliff?
Please continue to give us your feedback. That's all. Thanks.
I'm banning Bchang from the Discord.
People, you want to take it away?
Oh god, is it too much of a stupid layup to say Hogs can't lose?
Oh, it's
Something
a
about
classic.
Hogs can't lose. Something about there being internal threads every so often. Like Joe just being like, "What is the Hogs can't lose? I can't understand." And I think both Pliff and I just immediately responded like, "Oh, I see why you're confused. It's the Hogs can't lose." And then it just being this absolute nonsense that spouted from the show match teams in these moments in games. Maybe it's too bit of a layer, but it's classic. And the fact that on Twitter messages with my friends I'm trying to get to play this game, I can send the GIF of Hogs can't lose because you can find it in the little GIF. I'm like, this is perfect. It's real. The Hogs can't lose, dude. It's perfect. I love that. And then +1 on just to say with what Justin did, the idea of show it when you're embarrassed and work with the community this early. The willingness of players to come play this game when it has bugs. Just kidding, it has no bugs, but it's early on, it's prototype. We're trying different things. Things change a lot. It may go one way, and people have gone through all sorts of crazy, wild stuff, Powers 3.0, range stuff, ships flying through the air, and Bebo, like, we do some wacky stuff, and I love that the community is here, on Twitch doing marble races and showing clips and explaining to new players, I'm sending out so many YouTube guides for new players to my friends I'm trying to get into this game, because people have taken legitimate, hours making tutorials and editing them and playing the game and going over it and thinking about it deeply, and like being willing to have that conversation with us. Like, I've been so excited to work on a game like this so closely with players. I think live games are like the new thing, and the thing that gaming is really trying to understand as an industry and work through right now. But to echo what Justin said, I think it's the right way to do it. I think just like be small, work with players directly, just be honest and open with them, and be able to have this dialogue and make something that is just this piece of magic, because it's a piece of so many different people. And I think that's why it attracts so many different types of people, is it has a little piece of so many, from devs to players, like everyone gets to, be in it a little bit. And I think that's what makes it really special. Like, I think the way we build it is so cool, and I think it's why the game is so cool.
I agree. I think that's great. Awesome.
Man. Thank you, guys.
JMO, to round it up.
Yeah, I guess my favorite, I'll say two memes. One newer, which is Dolphy's Bebo song, obviously, is close to my heart. It's amazing. I think all her songs are really good, but I was just blown away. I don't even know if she had played Bebo at the time, but the fans came out, for Bebo so hard that even she wanted to write a song about him, which I think is amazing. Older meme would maybe be Sapper, our boy Sapper, rip. But I'm like, just whenever you ask the question, I thought of it, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should, maybe some Sapper stuff should come back. But yeah, he's a classic. I think the memes channel, I spent a lot of time in the memes channel, so I'm just here for it.
And then
I think, do what? Sorry.
It's a great channel, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think just going forward, it's some of what David said. I think like I'm excited to build the game with players, and I'm excited. There's still so much experimentation I'd like us to do. Some of what I think makes us successful is we're not afraid to try wild stuff, and I hope we never stop. Like I hope we just keep trying the crazy stuff, because I think it helps us stand out. Like it's a crowded market, and I don't know, even for myself, like I want to keep playing, like I want to keep seeing what's new and what's interesting and keep it fresh for myself. So like I'm even my own customer in a way, but I'm like, I want us to keep innovating on what we have, even though it is special, never to get like stagnant, I guess. So I'm excited. I don't know what the next thing is, that revolutionizes the game, but like I'm excited for us to keep shooting shots, and hopefully we find it.
Awesome. Thank you for all of your time, and thank you for asking questions, answering questions, and being here for the community all the time. It's been a blessing talking with you guys, and I hope if you are playing the NA test later, that you win some games, and that you also keep on posting stuff. We also as a community love watching devs do funny stuff and meet you guys in games, so lovely to talk to you guys.
It's fun playing with you guys, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hosting, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.